Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we're in Psalm 24, and in this particular psalm, you're going to have praise being given to God for Him being the ruler over all. And there's also going to be some questions as who is going to be allowed to stand before Him, or who is going to be able to stand before Him because He is the ruler of all. Not a very long psalm, but one that is interesting in its dynamic with our relationship with God. So let's look at Psalm 24. Beginning in verse 1, we read these words: The earth is the Lord's, and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas, and established it upon the waters. Who may ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive blessing from the Lord, and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is Jacob, the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates, lift up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. As you examine Psalm 24, there's kind of two distinctive parts to this particular psalm. The first part is the declarative statement that is going to be made, and that is the statement that all is the Lord's. The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, he says in verse 1. And by that, he means that the Lord is over everything. He is the one who made it. He is the one who reigns over it. He is the one who oversees it. And so the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And it's not just the world, but it is all who dwell therein, as the end of verse 1 states. And so you have the sentiment that God is the one who rules over it all. There is nothing that God does not oversee or that God did not have the power to put into place. And so everything belongs to God. You know, we live in a world where a lot of people want to remove God from the process of anything. And yet, the declarative statement here is the fact that God is the one who is in control, and He is the one who is over all. As you come down because of that, and because of that sentiment, the question is going to be asked in verse 3: who is it that can stand before God? Who is it that may ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who may stand in his holy place? In other words, if the Lord is over everything and the Lord sees everything and he is the one who is reigning over everything, which of us, who of us can possibly stand before him? The answer is going to be found in verses 4 and 5, and especially in verse 4, where there he says that it's the one who has clean hands and a pure heart. Now, it's not talking about clean hands from the standpoint of he washes before dinner, but rather he's talking about it from the standpoint of the actions of his life. He is one who is striving to do what is right. He has a pure heart. His motives are pure and they are righteous. The desire of the individual that is going to be able to stand before God is that they want to do what's right. They have the desire to be what God wants them to be. He has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor has he sworn deceitfully. He is honest. He is an individual of integrity, and he is completely devoted to God. who is it that is going to stand before God? Now, some will say, well, I thought we were all going to stand before God in judgment. And in that sense, yes, we are. We will all be judged by God. But the one who is going to be able to stand and be able to uh, be recognized as being able to be there is going to be the one who has clean hands, pure heart, a devotion, complete devotion to God, and has not sworn deceitfully. He does not lie. He is a person of integrity. You have that individual who David says will receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. But then you have the second part of the psalm. In this first part, it's the recognition that God is in charge, and that if we want to stand before him, if we want to be able to stand in an acceptable way before him, this is what we need to do. But at the end of the psalm, there is this question of who God is and what God does. And it follows on the heels of the statement in verse 1. But it's more meant to be a rousing call of recognition. Because beginning in verse 7, he says, "Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors. The King of glory shall come in." And then in verse 10 it says, "Who is the King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory." This is going to be the second time in the psalm. Back in verse 8, the question of who is the King of glory is going to be asked again. The Lord is the King of glory. The idea of having glory here is to have honor above all, to be the one who is honored above all. And so, who is the King of glory? Who is it that everyone else looks up to, that everyone else responds to, that everyone else is held accountable to? The Lord. He is the King of glory. Ultimately, all are going to answer to him. And all glory goes to him. You know, when you go through and you look at the things that are stated in the New Testament concerning Jesus and what he did when he came to this earth and when he died on the cross and all of the things that are done, they are done and they are described as being done to the glory of the Father. All glory belongs to the Lord. These are some of the things that I've seen in Psalm 24. It is truly a psalm of praise and adoration for the place of God and for the power of God. I hope that these things have been beneficial to you. Next time, we will come back and we will examine Psalm 25. I hope that you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.